Last week, For All Mankind said goodbye to one of, if not the biggest characters in the show, Ed Baldwin. And I've got a video on that coming, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. And I'm sure, like fans of the show, we were wondering what would be next, and episode 4, Open Source, definitely sets up a new direction for the season and the characters in it. Introducing a new character and point of view, and a quick catch up with an old familiar face that I didn't think we'd get to see again. I wonder who else could come back for the rest of the show. But watching this episode, I did wonder how people would deal with Ed's death. Would this episode just be dwelling on them, or would it be a bit of a time jump and allow them to move on? And it's pretty well balanced overall, I have to say. So if you haven't seen the episode, obviously this video will contain spoilers, and if you want to support the channel by becoming a member, I've already posted my watch along commentary for episode 4. But as always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review, so let's get into For All Mankind Season 5 Episode 4 Open Source. If you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel, leave a like and all that stuff. So the episode opens with not only Ed's family, but Mars dealing with his loss as a whole. Episode 4 doesn't dwell too much on it, and it doesn't take away from how good that ending and send-off was last week. What I find interesting is we see how Mars deals with Ed's death as a whole, but it kinda doesn't give us any information on what's going on with Earth or how they viewed it. And I'll get to the Earth side of things shortly, because we do get an Earth point of view this week, and it is from an unexpected source. But the impact of Ed's life and death is definitely felt here, but like I say, they don't drag it out, and it's not too dreary for the entire episode. We see that they've made him a makeshift memorial for him on Mars, and I'll be shocked, quite honestly, if a section of Dev's new planned city, or one on Happy Valley Base, isn't called Baldwin Alley, Baldwin Street, or Baldwin Avenue. You get the idea. But remember, back home on Earth, Ed's probably not thought of as fondly after the Goldilocks heist, and this kinda does get dressed a little bit. And all of this happens before the title credits have rolled, and it's just to quickly wrap up from what happened from last week's events and make sure that we know that these characters are dealing with what's happened. So it then cuts to Earth, and we see a Marine Corporal Avery Jarrett being interviewed as part of a selection process for going into space, either Mars or the Moon. Now, we've seen clips of this character in the trailer, and I don't think anyone would have guessed who this person is in relation to the show, because they quickly established that she didn't know who her real father was. And whoever he was, he seems to have had quite a bit of a reputation. Now, we do find out that her real dad was Danny Stevens, so she's Danny's daughter, and a quick catch up if you don't remember that name. Danny was the son of Gordo and Tracy Stevens, and he was on the Mars mission with Ed, Danielle and the others during the first mission to Mars. He had an affair with Ed's ex-wife Karen, and let's not get into all that, but basically he had some mental health problems paired with a drug addiction that cost lives once they arrived on Mars. So he's pretty well known for all the wrong reasons, and is basically the anti-Ed Baldwin. He tried to live up to Gordo and Tracy's legacy, and she's trying to forget his, insisting that she barely remembers him, which isn't exactly a lie, as she was only a baby when he left Earth, never to return. But this was a pretty unexpected development. I don't think anyone else could have seen it coming either. I did say in my last video, while I laid it off Earth, I did wonder how they would tell stories back there. And while it seems that we're not going to get too many episodes with Avery on Earth, I thought this was a nice way of keeping it anchored to the green planet. We also find out that all is not well in the Soviet Union, and it seems to be nearing the verge of collapse, mirroring what happened in our own timeline in the late 80s. But anyway, Avery fails her polygraph test, leading her to suspect that someone close to her has raised concerns about her character or personality, and this is where the writers set up that she's a bit of a hothead like her grandmother Tracy. This leads them to bringing back a character I thought we'd never see again, and that's Danielle Poole, played by Chris Marshall. And I love the fact that they've done this because Avery goes to see her, and it seems that she's pretty happy with her life. Our grandchild has grown up, and it seems she's got a pretty nice home life, and all this is to give her perspective on how Avery's dad was, the mission on Mars, and we also find out how Danielle feels about Ed. Because remember, he really done her dirty. Well, he done her dirty as part of the Goldilocks heist, as Danielle was the commander of Happy Valley when all that went down. But I'm interested to hear what you guys thought about Avery and them bringing back Danielle for this episode, so let me know in the comments below. Again, I love that I didn't see any of this coming, so let me know about it and where you think it might be going. But back on Mars, Aleda arrives, and by this time it's been about a month or so since Ed's passing, so things have settled down. Kurgan, the seemingly evil Russian company, are on the verge of launching their own mission to Titan, so she's here to run Helios' expedition from Mars' mission control. The Aleda and Dev reunion is something I was looking forward to, and it doesn't go down the way I expected either. Dev warmly greets her and tries to get her on side rather than just using his power and holding it over her. And Dev's really changed as a character here, and he does sort of say that he's become more cautious given the fact that he's been betrayed before. This surprises me as he does the same thing earlier on in the episode when he's very receptive to Alex, who started his first day on the job at Helios, and they have a chat where they talk about Dev's future vision for Mars and the city that he plans to build. Alex points out that it all seems very controlled and it literally needs scope for dreams and capacity for human growth to allow it to develop. And I love how Dev has a cross-section model on his desk, including a planned beach, because we all know that Alex has been visiting the beach in VR, so again, the writers have got a pretty clear plan of where this is all going. Alex settles into his new job, and Aleda and Kelly get ready for the Sojourner mission to launch to Titan, but Alex comes across some restricted files in Russian that reference automation on Mars. Something that's clearly been restricted by unions, and when we find out what this all means, it's got big implications for everyone on the Red Planet. He eventually manages to get access to the files and discovers that Kurgan's plan is to automate about 90% of the workforce on Mars over the next 5 years. And that's what they've been sneaking in the equipment to do, so that's what Boyd has been seeing. So this means from everyone from the miners on the Goldilocks asteroid to technicians on Happy Valley would essentially be made redundant in every sense of the word, making the valuable iridium shipments and mining back to Earth a lot cheaper by removing the human element. So you can clearly see the implications here, and what I love is they set this up all the way back in episode 1, as we've seen automated robots doing household tasks on the news catch-up at the start of this episode. But this would essentially end Happy Valley's expansions, Dev's planned cities, as no jobs means no opportunity, means no future, means no point in people moving to Mars. So Kurgan is the big bad we thought it was going to be all along, we just didn't know how it was going to pan out. There's also a Kurgan delegation on its way to Mars with a familiar face included as well, and that's Irina, who is Margot's handler and was introduced last season. We're going to get a younger version of her in the prequel show Star City when it drops in a few weeks' time, so this all makes sense that they brought her back too. But the episode ends with Alex and Lily getting the story out about Kurgan's plans, and we see everyone on Mars' reaction to this. I thought Lee's story might be the catalyst for the revolution that was coming, but it wasn't really mentioned this week. Then I thought it might be linked to Ed's death somehow, but it now seems the Kurgan plan is what's going to force an independent Mars, or at least a revolution on Mars. Dev's vision for a self-sufficient planet free of Earth, and it seems that it's clear that that's now going to be in jeopardy, and he's going to need to be a figurehead of this new movement going forward. Where Miles and the other Martians locals stand will probably be picked up next week, but that's pretty much where the episode ends. I wasn't sure how this show was going to deal with the loss of Ed, but it has been pretty effective with the plot and the characters moving along nicely. We get a lot of unexpected twists this week from Danny's daughter, Kurgan's plan, and Danielle Poole popping back in, and remember, we're not even at the halfway point of the season yet. We know the show has an end point with the final season coming, and this episode reassures me that the writers have a plan and a vision, as the way they tie things together and all set them all up to work is absolutely fantastic and flawless. In fact, I'd say this is one of the best consistently written TV shows that I've seen in the last 10 years. Everyone has something to do, even if they don't in the episode, and they never force a character in just to appear. Boyd and Miles are notably absent this week, but in no way stops or suspended the plot. We still don't know what's going to happen with Kelly on our way to Titan. Kurgan, as I said, are coming and the future's all to play for. But as always, I want to know what you guys thought of the first post-Ed Baldwin episode. Did you miss him? Did you feel the loss? How do you feel about Kurgan's plan and what's going to happen next? The fact that they brought Danielle Poole in makes me think that they also could connect her and keep the Margot storyline going, or at least have Margot drop in before the finale, but as always, we're going to have to wait and see. If you made it this far, as always, subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video if you haven't done already, and my name's Al, thanks for watching.